Hello everyone, and welcome to the Unlearning Talks series of the Start Create Cultural Change event. The Unlearning Talks is a series of talks on resilience and sustainability in the sociocultural sector with a focus on Southeastern Europe. My name is Maria Luisa Laupodi. I'm speaking to you from Thessaloniki in Greece, and I will be your host for this online event. This event is part of the START program. START is a capacity building and fellowship program for aspiring cultural managers from Greece. The program supports creative minds to kickstart cultural initiatives that generate positive social impact on their local communities. This year, the START program has supported, again, 30 cultural managers from Greece by offering a professional placement in 30 different sociocultural centers in Germany. 15 of those cultural managers have moved forward, and with the program support, they have implemented their innovative initiatives in 9 cities around Greece until June 2020. I would like to take you through this journey with a short video we have prepared. The START program is coming to a conclusion this year. And while thinking how we would like to conclude, we understood that a lot of the work that had been developed in the projects we supported could be relevant to other areas in our region. And similarly, other projects could have a lot to share with our community. So we designed this series of talks to spread beyond Greece and Germany and in the Southeastern European space, as very often challenges remain the same when working towards sustainable cultural interventions. The Unlearning talks evolve around 3 thematic cycles. Cycle 1, coping with emerging crises, challenges and trends. Cycle 2, resilient models of sociocultural entrepreneurship. And cycle 3, building new collaborative methods of cooperation and networks. Today is our last talk, and we hope you will enjoy it as it concludes this series of online events. Each cycle spans over 3 days, from Tuesday to Thursday every week. And every day there is a different topic with a very rich and diverse lineup of speakers from Southeastern Europe. For more information, you can visit the startgreece.net website. You as an audience can ask our speakers any questions you wish by downloading the Slido app, either on Google Play or the App Store. The event code on Slido is #28659. Today's talk is part of the 3rd cycle, and it is entitled Mapping New Pathways for Inclusive Partnership Building. While collaboration cannot always prevent crises from arising, change makers with strong networks between peers, their stakeholders, and other sectors such as local government are better able to act fast, innovate, and recover at scale. And especially community-led networks have the ability to grasp the collective intelligence and propose resilient solutions. Our speakers today will tell you how these partnerships build new kinds of collaborative strategies in which communities play a central role. Before we go into more details, I would like to welcome our international sign language translator, Apostolis Margaritidis. The shift to online events offers the possibility to more people to access from different locations the same content. In our efforts to be as inclusive as possible, we believe that offering such interpretation can widen the audience in the dialogue for cultural development. We will start with the presentations of our 4 speakers and then continue to the Q&A. This part of the Q&A is participatory by design, as you, the audience, can join by sending to us your questions and comments. Moving forward, I would like to welcome the speakers of the 9th Unlearning talk. Jenny Goldberg from RAW CC in Germany, Stefan Savage from Odron Art Collective in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Frantzeska Papagiannopoulou from Tinos Guidance SIC in Greece, and Periclisa Zinakos from Commons in Residency, also in Greece. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us. Let's start with the first speaker, Jenny Goldberg. Jenny is a spatial activist, an interdisciplinary artist and researcher from Berlin. Her work focuses on methods of collective decision-making and production processes. And since 2020, she hosts a monthly freedom radio show that's all about the right to the city, offering a platform to local activists as well as experimental urban practitioners for sharing their knowledge, tools, and experiences. She will share with us failure and success stories from partnership building. Jenny, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria Luisa. And hello to everyone. Of course, I would appreciate to see at least some familiar faces in person today, but nevertheless, it's a great pleasure to be a part of Start Again, even temporarily. So what can I offer you today? In my daily work, I experience network building mainly as a self-organized process, which means, simply speaking, there's no management, no budget, and no framework. Let's say just a common need and some people taking this common need or interest as a reason to cooperate. So let's call these people key agents because they initialize the process of network building. And if they like it or not, they play an essential role even after the first steps of networking. And for me, the big question is, why do a few self-organized processes lead to the establishment of a strong network that really supports people, while so many other networks or network building processes I've seen over the years had led into nothing more than frustration? A short answer could be the key agents either avoid or they blunder directly into some frequent traps. Maybe you ask yourself why I focus on the key agents. Usually key agents are highly motivated, very active, and fast becoming a central contact person for almost everyone. But on the other hand, high motivation often goes along with high expectations and sometimes even wrong expectations. So let me mention two frequent traps I observed during my research or even being involved. So first, thinking the common interest already is a sufficient drive for cooperation, and the rest will work itself out on its own in some mysterious way. But if this would be the case, I don't understand, if I may say so, why we're still living in capitalism, yeah, just for example. So more important here, the consequence of this perspective is no methods. You just won't spend a single moment thinking about how to work, how to reach more people, how to keep people participating, or even how to make decisions. And there's a second trap I like to mention. That's saying, since this is a collective process, everyone has to discuss, decide, and do everything together all the time. The consequences here would be creating high barriers to participate, where you actually need to tear down these barriers. And so you try to push people into a network instead of, let's say, adapting it to people's specific needs. And to directly exemplify what I would consider as a successful self-organized network, let me shortly introduce two cases. Both networks receive public funding by now, but again, both started without a clear framework, just by having a common interest and, of course, some maniacs starting the whole thing. So I start with my presentation, which works now, and it's the first case is AKS Gemeinwohl. We can freely translate it as a network for urban commoning in Berlin. The network's main functions are to enhance the cooperation, this is very important, between organized civil society and local authorities on the other hand. Another task is to support self-organized citizen participation and network building, still both in urban planning processes. This is the focus of AKS Gemeinwohl. The other case I want to introduce is Naginetz, which is a solidarity network of neighborhood and small business, also based in Berlin. Main idea here, small business are also part of the neighborhood as well as citizens. But while Berlin's housing movement has seen some results by now, there are still no effective tools to protect small business contracts, for example. Yeah, main functions of Naginetz network are sharing information, knowledge, experiences, and when needed, supporting each other or building active alliances. So if you want to learn more about both, then I would love to answer your questions later. For now, I'd like to point out 3 things that they have in common. 2 of them, you see them, I have already mentioned. It's first, there's a common interest, a need, or a cause. Second, there are some key agents initializing the network building. And of course, decisions had been made during the process. And this is not mainly about what to achieve, because this is an ongoing discussion in every network, but about how to work so that it fits to the need of the people. And before I finish my input, I'd like to point out some essentials that people of AKS Gemeinwohl and Naginetz have been aware of. It's first, accept that there always is a core group bearing the major share of the work. And second, you need to allow others to participate whenever they make it. And so you should create what I would call a multi-dimensional hub. So this can be spatial, digital, whatsoever. It can be a meeting point or a monthly evening in a bar, having a group chat for the core group and a huge mailing list for all the people around. So this also means keeping the doors open. Yeah, don't close yourself up, because you want to grow. You want to work with other people, maybe other networks. And of course, you need also to maintain the hub. And this nowadays means you need to find funding, receive funding to pay people for at least for the paperwork. This would already be a help. Yeah. And you see a small graphic next to the essentials. This is just to visualize how networking and partnership belong together. And you see below, knowing each other is already being part of a network. Yeah. So use your existing networks, use your private networks, be brave, talk to the people, don't hesitate to even, I don't know, bother them, because you have a destination or you have some objectives, and this should always be the main cause. Thank you very much for now.
Thank you, Jenny, for sharing what seems a long experience in partnership building and for showing us those examples from Berlin. I'm sure that the audience would like to hear more in the Q&A. Let us now invite the next speaker from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Stefan Savage graduated from the Academy of Fine Arts in Sarajevo at the Department of Printmaking. During his studies, he became one of the founders of the Student Association. He's also one of the members of the Odron Art Collective, in which he serves as Secretary General. He says that working in a collective is important to him because it helps him combine all his passions together and teaches him how to be more accurate in interpretation of ideas and thoughts while becoming more integral as an artist. He will present to us what Odron Art Collective does to bring people together. Stefan, welcome. You can start your presentation.
Thank you, Maria, for your introduction. Through this presentation, I will primarily present the activities of my organization and the ways in which I think we have created the wider community of creatives which serve as a starting point for new projects in the Bosnian art scene and the creation of community of creatives. As an introduction, I will try to present to you our activities in the last 2 years and our attempts and efforts to primarily help the local art scene and through that the wider Bosnian society. So in the summer of 2019, the collective was formed, and in July we opened the Odron workspace in Sarajevo as an independent space for exhibiting, meeting, and creating with fellow citizens, artists, and activists. Our main goals are to support the development of culture, arts, and activism in Bosnia through organization of cultural events, educational workshops, publishing activities, and sustainable community space. To develop, network, and build the community of artists, cultural and academic workers, and activists, as to promote the collaboration and collective participation in societal change, and to raise awareness on socially engaged arts, scientific and technological literacy, gender equality, human rights and democracy, healthy living, protection of our environment, and general civil society development. Starting from October 2018 and every month since then, we have been organizing jam sessions with some of the best young musicians in Bosnia, where professionals and amateurs alike are invited to come and play music all night long. We had hundreds of local, regional, international visitors, and dozens of amateurs have been spontaneously being introduced to the basics of playing an instrument, and the community has started to form on regulars, look forward to the freedom to experiment with friends each month. It has inspired a huge community organized events in January 2019, but lately during the crisis caused by the pandemic, we moved the sessions outside to the suggestion of the community, and we organized graffiti jams, so we managed to gather graffiti artists and musicians at the same time. Since all members of the collective have an artistic background, a lot of our activities are based in helping the artistic community and solving problems that we encountered ourselves during our and after our studies. Inefficient exhibition activity and poor visibility in the art scene was one of our problems, so we approached it with only logical way by organizing exhibitions. In November 2018, we opened our biggest exhibition so far, featuring the works of 16 young Bosnian artists, and ranging from established international artists to the students of the Sarajevo Academy, and it was much needed addition to the already low number of independent spaces and opportunities available to young and aspiring artists. Some of the younger students exhibited outside the Academy for the first time on this occasion. And our international artists had a chance to exhibit in their country without having to travel. We also had a number of individual exhibitions, from which I might single out exhibition of disputable Bosnian coats of arms. It was an exhibition that questioned the awareness of unconstitutional, amateurish, and distasteful use of ethnic, religious, and local symbols in the national heraldry. And the exhibition was open for 2 weeks in September, and we moved it actually to the Belgrade in the space of our partner Staka Pokretnica, and we had a discussion about nationalistic usage of art in Balkans. And those discussions, through discussion, we try to encourage young people to share their opinions in the pleasant atmosphere, engage in political processes where their views will be challenged in different ways, and where they will have to defend their views, stated attitudes, and from other interested parties or professional associates of the collective. Our approach is to bring political subjects and authorities in fields of art and design to these events so the students and young people could ask questions and discuss possible solutions directly. A lot of frustration and helplessness that young people in our community feel is due not to not having, or at least not perceiving to have an access to relevant information from experts, let alone having a chance to question authority. And the discussions about art and politics also stimulate students to reflect on their art practices and how the everyday political turmoil affects them. Since July 2018, we have also been holding crypto party events on digital security on a monthly basis. We also had a few screen printing workshops with different focuses on political posters, t-shirts, and various printed materials. We are also currently working on launching a small fashion brand that would use motifs from work of local artists, thus furthering promoting their work and giving them financial initiative to continue working in the field of art. Until the pandemic imposed new rules, the film screenings were a way to show our audiences what student film scene has to offer and what is it yet to provide. Of course, we try to give the opportunity to more experienced directors as well and put their films into a public spotlight and help them attain a wider reach. We screen other staples of alternative culture. We also screened independent contemporary animation and documentaries exposing the meat industry and all so and so. As for our work on drawing attention to the various problems of the community through artistic performances, I would like to single out two examples, two actions that we have carried out in the last period during the crisis caused by the pandemic. The first is street performance and pseudo-documentary film Homo Incorruptus, which deals with corruption and non-transparent spending of public procurement, as well as various scandals in the theft of state money. The second is spontaneous protest and the performance due to the removal and destruction of the installation called Star Trek, which was a symbol of friendship between Sarajevo and the German city of Friedrichshafen. I hope I didn't butcher that. And it caused a great rebellion among the citizens of Sarajevo. The problem is actually part of the broader problem of the destruction of one of the city parks due to the planned construction of business facilities by the city authorities. The performance echoed in public, and currently the construction site and the construction of sculpture have been stopped probably until the local elections in November, but we think we had a role in a public outcry that stopped the further usurpation of public space. Thus, the presentation of our activities is complete. I would like to mention in the end that all activities undertaken and presented here were realized with zero state support, and mainly thanks to the members, friends of the collective, and the members of the wider community who made an effort to contribute their ideas, time, and resources to us. As I already said, the goal was to gather people around constructive activities that affirm common values, the desire for better life and the need to build more just society. And it's achieved by pouring our own creative capacities into something greater than ourselves. Our initiative was one of many other individual efforts that were made to create spaces that would hold the art scene in Sarajevo and Bosnia, and they were usually short-lived thanks to the government lack of interest in culture and distribution of resources skewed heavily towards ethno-separatism. Since the end of the war, the amount of public resources given to the progressive initiatives and access to public space has been shrinking. So there is a need to make the communication channel between communities around the country. And it's our task as a community development workers to assist these processes through assisting people to make connections that might otherwise prove difficult or fragile. For us, it's the importance of one-to-one personal relationships developed at the micro level of the interpersonal skills, which translates to the macro level of structure and agency. Cooperation at smaller levels is the first step in establishing the so-called master levels of collective activity, which is establishing and managing effective networks that can be used for a variety of purposes, including collective problem solving, research, mobilization, organization of development, and social change. With that idea of networking as a core function shifts the focus of practice away from the formal arrangements to encompass more informal processes, thus creating the atmosphere and conditions for creative action and development of new skills. Offering opportunities to artists and providing meeting space for all sorts of activities. Since our community suffers from the lack of connection to other and similar fields, not just the field of art, is actually strengthening the local and regional creative networks because an interconnected and empowered community can prop itself up easier than when it's relying on some external help. And with that, my presentation is over. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Stefan. I think I would like to come back to the different communities you mentioned involved in the Q&A session. Thank you for sharing your work with us. The next two speakers come from Greece, and they are both alumni of this year's START program. Let me introduce you first to Frantzeska Papagiannopoulou. Frantzeska is a professional in early childhood education. She has set up an annual children's festival in her community on the island of Tinos in Greece, where she comes from. As a START fellow, she used the knowledge and hands-on experience received in the cultural management sector towards her community. Today, she is the project manager of Tinos Guide and Seek project, and she will present to us how she built the partnerships around it. Frantzeska, our virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria Luisa, for this nice introduction. Welcome, everyone. As already Maria Luisa said, I used to be an educator, and to be honest, after the START program, I feel like more being a cultural manager. And maybe that's why they call START as a capacity building program. To make this long story short, in 2015, I set up the first annual Children's Festival in my community, while in 2017, I conducted research on the sociocultural and educational value of the festival at the Utrecht University. Feeling emotionally attached to my place, in 2019, I decided to come back. And given that the local population of the island was getting lower and lower, while the tourist population was getting higher and higher, I came up with the idea of creating the first cultural guide of Tinos Island, created for the children, by the children, including maps, stickers, acrostic puzzles with riddles, and children's texts and drawings. As you can see, this is our island, and the locals used to divide it geographically into 4 areas. This also gave us the structure of the project. Each school took on to depict the arts and myths in every area, while for the implementation of our project, we formed partnerships with institutes that are located in these 4 areas. Besides, we had partners that go beyond institutes. Those were the people, and mainly the elderly, who are kind of the experts of our local arts and crafts. And to put it in other words, we engaged 82 project participants, all the 3rd graders of the 5 primary schools of Tinos, accompanied by their 10 educators, a team of 10 facilitators, 5 cultural institutes and museums venues, 5 villages and the town, the center of Tinos, and also 22 local people at the villages. So my question here is what does an 8-year-old child share in common with an 85-year-old craftsman, with a manager of a museum and a teacher? Of course, in our case, they share the same place. However, in any case, different people means different needs. So the challenge always is to find the commonalities in between your project and your partners. For example, what I had in common with the teachers was our knowledge that non-formal learning education can play an important role, while on the other hand, what I had in common with the municipality, the mayor and his team, was that they had already been working towards the promotion of Tinos as a family tourist destination. The second chance is to gain the trust of your community. Being a local was a great advantage, as I realized, and it's not because you know the people or the places, and this is because you know the needs. But again, when it comes to trust, things take time. Another challenge is to clarify the needs, what you need, what you expect from your partners, what you can give them back to them, your intention, and why they are important. Both of them, clarifying the needs and underlying their important role that they can play in your projects, are a matter of communication, and I found them really challenging. Last but not least, bring all those different people together into one project was another challenge. And this is something that it's really, and here is the interest of the socioculture, because culture is used as the means. Here, our goal was not to create an artistic product, but to enhance children's place attachment. And since you have all those people on board, then you have to deal with the challenges so as to sustain and keep them with you. The greatest challenge, as this period and this year showed us, is change. You have to deal with the changes. The challenge is to use the obstacles, to use the things that go different from your plans as opportunities that can provide with your project another benefit. The challenge is to be adaptable, to be present and innovative, having the ability to transmit your project from the digital version to the physical one and the other way around. Another challenge is to be visible, because it was through the media, at least in our case, that we attracted new collaboration from the private sector. And another example of all those challenges and opportunities was that during the COVID period, the mayor asked us to design a series of educational activities online in order to support children staying home. And this allowed us to communicate the project beyond the Tinos context. So you might say that I'm crazy, that I decided to involve all those different people from the different ages, but I would say that the more people are involved in a project, the more they're gonna fight for it when hard times will occur. In order to tackle these challenges, we have to think out of the box. We have to keep in touch with our partners, communicate with them our plans beforehand, and also keep your words, because a goal is a goal. And last but not least, we have to be willing to give the ownership of the projects to our community so as the partners to find their position within our projects. Coming now to an end or to a new start, I would say that all this network not only makes me feel emotional or grateful, but it also is kind of the promise or a proof that we will never walk alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frantzeska, for sharing your experience. I am sure we're going to have some questions and you can tell us more on building trust and engagement during the Q&A. Our last speaker for today is Periclisa Zinakos. Periklis has worked as a cinematographer and community worker in Alexandrous Volou neighborhood in Thessaloniki, managing various cultural events and projects. As a START fellow, he created the cultural environmental project Commons in Residency, which aims at converting a typical Greek flat building, which we call polykatikia, into a green building. He will present to us how he and his team developed partnerships around the project. Periklis, welcome, and let us hear from you now.
Thank you, Maria-Luisa. Greetings, everyone from Thessaloniki. I hope you're all well and healthy. I am Periclisa Zinakos, manager of the Commons in Residency project and director of the Mama Gea organization. Today, I will talk about the middle-out perspectives and the local sustainable partnerships. Starting, I would like to share with you my professional path in the socio-cultural sector. I am an active member in my neighborhood's bottom-up initiative called Alexandrous Volou. In that context, we are implementing participatory cultural events, such as the collaborative Springs Dinner, and we are constructing a DIY pocket park, by our own means. After working for more than 7 years on a volunteering level, in 2019, I decided to submit to the START Create Cultural Change capacity building program. I was trained for more than 9 months in cultural management, and I experienced the German cultural life and faced, as a professional now, the Greek reality. In Germany, I was in Bremen, where I studied the bottom-up socio-cultural initiatives, their involvement into institutions, and their great social impact. In START, I established the Commons in Residency initiative and developed a business plan based on environmental projects and actions. I would like to present you the structure of my project. Commons in Residency, due to its dynamic form, developed actions on 4 different but strongly interconnected pillars. First of all, we are trying to convert a typical flat building into a prototype green one, and now we are looking for funders in order to invest on our main goal. Secondly, we have created the green community of Thessaloniki, consisted of 60 active members. As a third comes a project about environmental education in public schools. And the final pillar refers to a local policy-making process about creating green roofs and vertical gardens in Thessaloniki. Evolving the initiative into an organization, we reactivated the Mama Gea NGO. Following the 17 SDGs, we design and implement actions able to change the daily life of the city and its neighborhoods. So, for us, the SDGs are the main context about structuring a partnership. Before you proceed in any agreement, you have to ask yourself these questions. What you give and what you get. Is it equal? Does your future partner share with you a common vision? And final, is that partnership based on the 17th goal? Structuring a partnership demands from you to have a clear view about your function. You will not be able to complete successfully an agreement without knowing what kind of path you are following. Are you into top-to-down or bottom-up processes? Civil society organizations, social movements, institutes, enterprises, but also daily life practices are being described by these processes. So, questioning yourself, can you really understand what direction do you follow? We, as an organization, we have selected modern approaches. We place ourselves in the middle and we follow the middle-out perspective. Imagine society as a pyramid. On the top are the decision makers charged with the policy making. On the bottom is the population that is most directly impacted by policy decisions. And on the middle are actors such as mid-level government officials and professionals in NGOs, academia, and other sectors that operate in between. In the new time of crisis, we strongly believe that a sustainable partnership must be based on a network. But first, let's define what is a network. A network can be an economic, a digital, a social, and a societal. Two or more nodes can create a network. As you can see in this chart, it illustrates a simple network between 4 persons. Also, the networks are consisted of nodes, connections, and edges. As a sustainable network, we define the dynamic one that are described by high interconnectivity, consisted of many nodes, strong or weak ties, non-linear connections, unsurprising progress, and I can tell you many about this, nodes that may come and go, edges that may crash and recover. Here you can see our partnerships that we developed between January and July 2020 in the context of the project. The selection wasn't by luck. We had already designed our network before getting in contact with them. Our methodological approach is the middle-out dynamic network. This planning was made during last October. So you can see 4 different clusters, universities and research institutes, civil society actors, local government state institutes, private sector companies. And in the middle is the organization and of course our project. Here is the mapping of our partners divided on each sector. Someone could say that, okay, the main node is your organization or your project. So if that goes away, everything will collapse. But this is not real because we invested on the interconnection between the actors. So in reality, our network looks like that. Maybe chaotic, but believe me, it is a total dynamic network. So keep networking, enhancing sustainability, and I would be very happy to answer to your questions. And don't worry to bother me via Facebook or LinkedIn and to my email. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Periklis, for taking us through, if I may say, both theoretical and applied process of building your partnerships. It is very interesting. And now moving forward to the questions, let me remind you that you can participate in this conversation by sharing your questions or comments through the Slido app. You can download the app either through the Google Play or through the App Store. The event code is #28659. You can also participate through the Facebook Live. So going over to what you just presented, I think there are many things we can start discussing. And I would like to start with one very basic point that I think all of you mentioned, the time and the trust. And I would like to ask Frantzeska, who presented to us the whole process of building partnerships, even though, Frantzeska, you knew some of those people beforehand, but now it was a different context. So can you tell us a little bit more about the whole trust issue and how does a person keeps the ownership or starts feeling the ownership through this relationship?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Maria Luisa, for this nice question, because you're giving me the opportunity to elaborate more on what I was talking about. The reason why I dedicated one slide talking about the steps or how I have reached today this point, running this project, was just to show that things take time. And it's not that I came out of space and I said that, okay, I'm going to do this project and I have never done something similar before. I think that it is a process that took us years. And the first step was to get to know with the schools, with the heads, the principals of the schools. Mm-hmm. Especially the first year of the festival, then the second year, the third year, and afterwards, the fact that we researched and we switched perspective and we examined, the fact that we examined this project, the first project, through a different perspectives, also enabled me to gain more trust, because I could prove the value of this process. And also I had taken into account their perspective and their experience, because I had conducted some interviews with the children, the elderly, the educators that had accompanied their students to the workshops. Of course, this time was totally different. I felt that that it was a large-scale project. It was not only about 2 days, and it was not only about, like, you know, running a project for 2 hours. It was something much more. And I have to say that I also get to know. I also met people here that I didn't knew before. And it was pretty interesting for me, the fact that when I had to introduce myself to the several institutes, I was saying that I'm the educator, I'm the scientist, I'm the scholarship. But when I had to introduce myself to the elderly, then I had to explain what is my family, the fact that I'm the grandchildren or the children of this and that persons. So going step by step and keeping your word, I think is the clue.
Thank you. Thank you, Frantzeska. Actually, that brings me a little bit to what Jenny mentioned about bothering people. Don't be afraid to bother people, Jenny, you said. And this is what I would like to kind of dig a little bit deeper into, because I think the process of being, you know, taking maybe some shame or some first back thoughts about contacting people, even if, as Frantzeska says, you know them already, but now you're presenting yourself in a new project, so you have to pitch from the beginning. So I wanted to ask you, how can we train people somehow? You know, how can we transfer this knowledge or expertise that you, for example, have been building, or you know other people have, into creating partnerships and to setting the context for this trust?
Yes, Maria Luisa, this is a very good and important question, and I think many people try to answer it, because for me in Berlin, there was no older generation teaching us. So in our scene of urban policy, and this is one thing I want to point out just now, that I think this not working with other generations. This is really a problem, because if you have someone that looks back to 20 years of experience with local authorities, with also, of course, the whole networking stuff, maybe I could have avoided some traps, because the traps I mentioned, of course, I had them all myself. Yes, this is nothing like coming from a book. So all the generations, but then there is also, due to the voluntary work, so the unpaid work, you are very focused on your work, on your activities, and it also took me some years to realize other groups or other networking people. And so for me, it's indeed very important to share. And I already start this by working with younger people. Yeah, but how can you do it within one generation? And I think the association I mentioned, the network AKS Gemeinwohl, which is nice for urban planning processes. This is exactly the idea that we can stop this development, that every neighborhood group, every initiative needs to start on point zero. So AKS Gemeinwohl is also supporting self-organized counseling. So maybe I work for 10 years now for community art center, and there is another project having similar problems. So they will probably connect them to me or to one of my colleagues. And this is what we need. We need structures, and we need people that are paid for, again, for the paperwork, for the communication work, so that the people like us that are working on the content can exchange also our experiences and not like rabota all the time. Yeah, I think this.
I think what you say actually rings, some bells to many people, because it is a decision to take. And for example, that point leads me to another question for Stefan. Stefan, if I understand well, you presented to us an initiative by young professionals mostly, but not necessarily, if I understand right. So the interest here is how do you exchange this know-how you're developing? And you mentioned you do not have also any state support, so there is no funding in this case. So this is again a challenge, but how do you experience it in Bosnia? And how is this, helping you build new collaborations, new partnerships?
I think we, without the fact that we don't rely on state support or helped us to be tighter as a network, because in situation where you do not have a funding, everybody who is there and everybody who gathers at your at your place and of networking is there because of their personal reasons, because they have similar views and similar needs as you do, and the networks that build that way are more sustainable and more they're not based on financial support or anything. They're based on similar ideas and initiatives, and when networks like that collapse, there's some new initiatives always grow from them, because they actually leave large impacts on cultural and scene, and when that gap is left, the new initiatives spring out to try to fill the gap that is made, and dealing with wider field of art and culture and activism is I think it's important to provide a cozy space for socializing and discussing, and it is mean to intensify young people to get involved in political processes and to get involved in the process in their local community. And building capacities for self-government also through education and research and artistic projects, and we need to build a network where we have a friendly and collaborative ties, and where we can as organizations that all deal mostly in culture, we need to focus on the young working class and speak to the numerous unemployed and disenfranchised in the student population, and so. So the best way to go about is to make an eclectic program, and which is independent, and to make a proper cultural center that can have a quality program and that can gather a plenum of young creators, and it's something which I think is something crucial in order to build a robust youth culture that takes interests in political processes and social changes in the country.
Yeah, I see what you mean. This leads me a little bit also to another question for Periklis. You showed us this really nice graph with the arrows and everything, and I think it's quite important to understand the interconnectivities between your partners, because we all benefit from such collaborations. How do you keep this network alive? I mean, you explained that because of this interconnectivity, even if you are going away from the middle, still there are reasons why people would still be connected. So how do you, see this working for your activities?
Okay, I will answer this question from two perspectives, let's say. One, from ourselves, as an organization, how we are benefited at the point that we believe that connection is still not working. For example, last Friday in Collaborator, we have in a university that we have collaborated the last period, suggested us to be funded by another university, another Horizon European program. And we didn't expect that. So from an interior level, let's say, as soon as it has a dynamic form, things start rolling. So as I told, we didn't look only to create a network, because as Jenny told, usually networks, let's say they lose their interest if there is no someone that runs for it. Sometimes it collapses. While we were making partnerships, a basic goal was to make a network between, not only for us, but between another actor with another actor. For example, let's say, a civil society organization that we have collaborated for a series of educational programs got in touch with the municipality that they couldn't do it still then. So now they have set up new collaborations.
Right. I think we lost for a minute.
You
let me move on maybe to another question until we get you back all set. What Periklis just mentioned now in having, in linking other partners, and that from there on we develop things, I think it refers a little bit to what Frantzeska, you mentioned about feeling the ownership somehow, and about, you know, giving the next organization and the next team this kind of passion about the work. We have been receiving some questions also from the Slido app from our audience. So based on this, I would like to ask Jenny about this very specific, you know, role of connecting people. There is a question saying, any advice on how to keep agents motivated, you know, and that worked for you? So what would you suggest at this point from your experience?
Yeah, this is what I tried to start with these traps. I think as an agent, as a key agent, you really need to overcome your expectations, because again, I have no time maybe to make it more precise. So I am, as a key agent, I am convinced, for me, the common cause is already enough. So, and then I have the feeling, I turn around and there's a bunch of people, but the people, there might be some that say, oh yeah, okay, let's network. There might be some that ask, what's the benefit? Depart from having political goals. So, and you need to do this with yourself. It's really like, don't expect, I don't know exactly the English, but don't judge another person by your own standards. Yeah. So, and this is very important. And the second thing is you need, again, you need to accept your role. You don't expect that there are others, that others will follow with the same amount of time, with the same work and dedication, maybe also. But of course, you can use your private networks again. Yeah. So because you have friends, you have colleagues maybe that work in similar situation. Also, when on RAW, on my like basic project, things got a bit like nothing happens and nobody is doing anything. I went to other projects like ZKU in Berlin is a very alive place, and you need to work with people. You need to collect, if I may say so, some how do you say, accomplices? Some friends, let's say so. Yeah. So I don't know if this is enough, but to sum it up, be sure that your expectations are just your expectations. Get some people to work with, choose them on your own, and accept your active role by offering the other people in a like being a teacher a little bit, like, would you take this task and would you write the handout for next time? And you need to have a bit of control. So, but you don't get exhausted. Yeah. And by not taking control, you get exhausted because you're expecting it, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah. I hope this was clear enough. Otherwise, I will be happy to say more.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Also, you explained this with the body language, and it helps because it's a lived experiences, and I can totally see this. I have another question for Frantzeska, which has to do with, you know, doing things one at a time, maybe asking people to commit slowly into the process. And you have done this process in the island. So is there something that you can share with our audience on something to avoid in this process? So for example, Jenny gave us some, you know, good idea about how it can work. Is there something from your recent experience that you would say, I wouldn't suggest this in a small community or with a school community?
Thank you, Maria Luisa, for your question. Well, I think that, yeah, maybe this is a good example. When the coronavirus came, we have conducted 8 out of the 12 workshops as we had initially planned. So I think that sometimes you don't have to, you know, to make decisions very, very quickly. Things take time also when you have to make a decision. So when the schools start closing, we didn't, like, you know, communicate right after the lockdown with the educators, because I'm an educator and I thought, like, for example, that they need time to set up their classes online, to go virtual, to find like the ways that they're going to communicate. So our communication was only about like, how are you? Are you okay? We're thinking of moving digitally or later on. So I think that the fact that you don't have to rush, let's say, even if you don't know what you do, even if you have strictly deadlines that you have to follow, sometimes you have to be patient. And I think that the fact that we gave time to the educators gave me also the opportunity after 1 month of the lockdown to ask them and say to them, okay, this is what we have done so far, and now it's up to you. Are you willing to help us more and be more engaged and bring us, like, connect us with your students or not? Because we had already gathered the input that we needed for the guide. So it was literally up to them if they wanted to further the project. So I think that I would say that be patient and not hurry, do not action in a hurry. It's very important. And yes, and also what else I would say is just to do not contact the partners after you're sure that you're gonna do something. Take them with you, even when you are on the planning process, because I think that this played a really important role, and because also the start is built upon this like schedule or format. And even before moving from the 30 to the 15 people, I had already informed them, like, okay, we're gonna do this and that with the START program, but tell me right now, are you gonna be in if it is a yes or if it is a no? Because no matter what the START is gonna decide, I'm interested in doing so. So having them with us from the very beginning allowed for this to feel it as make them feel as part of it. It was like our island that was participating to the project. It was our schools, it was our museums. And this is what I'm referring to when I talk about ownership. And it's really nice for me, like I'm walking in the streets and they're asking, like, okay, how is it going? What we're gonna do next? Where can I find the guide? And so on. So I feel that that's the way to do it. Take them with you, not too late.
Thank you, Frantzeska. I believe what you just mentioned is a really important part, to have people in the information loop somehow allows them to jump in and out, as Jenny said in the beginning, when they feel the need to. And I see also you, Stefan, nodding. I'm sure this is a process we've all experienced. I think we have Periklis back with a proper connection, and I'd like to go back to our question, our conversation, the one we started, and it was about the same thing. How can you keep collaborations alive? So you started explaining to us a couple of examples from your partners and so on.
So I believe you hear me now again.
Yeah.
I can answer to this question by two perspectives, one from the inner side and one from the outer side. For us, let's say, it was a priority to build a network based on the interconnectivity, That means that while we were structuring up a partnership, we were looking always forward to connect one actor with another, organically, let's say. We could spot each of them what kind of interest they had. So we were trying to compare it with others and connect them finally. So a network, and especially a dynamic network, is based on the effort that each node will put in order to work the structure. So for us, from the inner side, let's say, I've started telling you that last Friday, we just got an email from a collaborator that we didn't believe that he is still warmed up into having connections with us, etc. And he suddenly announced us that about an interest of another university in order to invest on our school project. So for sure, between the actors, first of all, you have to find similar and common spots, common interests, in order to connect them, and then you keep it like flowing. You keep it flowing, like not in their lack, but as soon as you plan a structure, somehow it works. I hope I covered you.
I think you did, and we have all experienced this maybe. So that reminded me of the one of the last slides of Stefan with some partnerships that you showed us, some organizations that, if I understood well, do similar work. So this is a little bit, you know, it kind of reminds that model that Periklis just explained. Can you tell us a bit more about this, Stefan?
Yes, of course. We had. I was just saying earlier how cultural spaces connect people on the deep level that when one gets so-called retired, something else must flourish in the gap that is left for him. For us, there were two crucial initiatives that were retired in Sarajevo, and first was the Independent Gallery of Duplex, and it was an indispensable meeting place and cultural center all throughout the post-war early 2000s and 2010, and it's offered opportunities to young and established artists in Bosnia, not just to exhibit locally, but to present their work internationally. And the other one was Art House Criterion. It was also a project that started in 2005 or something. And the initiative was focused on providing a stage for alternative youth culture, and it organized screenings, concerts, stand-up nights. And in the summer of, I think, 2018, when we were starting to get on with our activities, it was close to the mismanagement and depth. So, but it was, and we decided like these two initiatives were some sort of predecessors of ours, and they left that large impact on cultural scene and left a gap that we thought that should be filled, and from that our initiative was born. And there are current organizations that make up our network, our small-scale network of, and we rely on each other for some cultural events. That is Brodac. It's an independent gallery in Sarajevo, also run by students and activists, and initiative was a few years old, and it's run by a small crew as we are, but we are not focusing solely on visual contemporary art, but more socially engaged. And also one of the organizations that helped us immensely was Crvena. It is also an association for culture and arts, and they focused on building capacities for self-government through education. They do research and artistic projects, and their goals and strategies are very close to our own, and we have friendly and collaborative ties with them. And of course, I should also mention Abrašević. It's a cultural center in Mostar. They are maybe one of only proper culture centers with quality program in the country, and they promoted the local and regional alternative scene in a way that is emancipatory and critical of political climates today in Bosnia and everything. So they were a lot of help.
Thank you very much. It is very often interesting to hear also from regions we do not hear much, and this is one of the reasons why we've designed this series of talks to go beyond, you know, what we hear maybe in Greece or in Germany in the news, because we have so many similarities. Being, as you said, having having organizations that leave a gap in society and in the cultural practice sometimes creates a responsibility to us practitioners to do something and continue the legacy. I have a question which is addressed to all from our Slido app, and maybe with that we can conclude as time goes by really quickly with the conversation today. The question is, how do you inspire the common purpose to such a diverse partnership? Do you use different narratives to each group? And this is a key thing. And I would like to start from Frantzeska with this question.
Yeah, thank you, Maria Luisa. Really nice question. And previously I mentioned to my presentation that one of the challenges, the first challenge, is to find the commonalities in between you and your partners one-to-one. So for example, when I had to reach the 8-year-old children, of course, I wouldn't tell them the same story that I said to the mayor. Neither I said the same story that I said to the 87 years old man, right? So just to give specific examples, what I had in common with children is the interest of game, of mystery, of exploration, and all these things. So we sent them a letter at their schools saying to them that we are a team of travelers. We have 72 guides in our libraries, but all of them are boring. And our goal is, our bet is to create the most interesting, let's say, guide for our island. If you're in, let's meet there at this place this time. So we gave them the context, right? And this brought them. So I had to keep my promise to them. With or without Corona, I had to go there and give them the book. And it was one of the greatest moments during June that we gave them the books. So that's the story that we said to the children. They had a role, they became explorers, they had their passports, and they had to fix specific spots to find out specific information in their exploration books. When I had to reach the elderly, what we had in common was that Tinos is a rich place of culture, of cultural aspects that the children are not familiar with. So our common goal is to preserve our cultural heritage. And they were also willing to share, because some of them are the last people who know, like, for example, to do the basket weaving, to do the marble sculpturing, or to extract marbles from the quarries, right? So for them, I was telling to them that we love our place. I was born and raised with their stories from my grandparents. So that's what we had in common. And
talking about the different actually language in a way and message. So because this is the most important part, I think this is the key thing. I mean, Jenny mentioned key agents, but you mentioned a very key part, which is to know at the back of your work, your goal, and just translate it in different narratives. I guess this is how it worked, right?
Exactly. And what is also important here is just, let's say, it's important to know to whom you are referring. Like, for example, I wouldn't have the same results if I haven't, search of what are the projects or the actions of the Kostas Tsoklis museum. For example, this particular museum is closed during winter, and it opened during its closed period in February only for the project, while the artist, who is around 90 years old, also came. And he, for example, signed a really nice painting of a child. So I think that that's what I mean when I'm talking about commonalities. Or another example is the mayor. The fact that there is a project for promoting Tinos as a family tourist destination, that there is a campaign. This gave me a ticket, let's say, or a common space to reach him and say, okay, I can see that you have already worked upon this towards this goal, and I want not not to do it for you, but just I want to add to what you have done so far.
Thank you so much, Frantzeska. These are tangible examples. So the question, same question goes to you, Jenny, you know, how to inspire the common purpose to a diverse partnership.
In addition to what Frantzeska said, and also what already said the whole time from the people here, I would say look for people that that you can cooperate with. For example, languages. Yeah, we have a huge Vietnamese community, but nobody is they are simply invisible in urban planning processes, for example. So then I would mainly choose somebody that is that knows more about everything, but and this is also networking, of course. You need to you need to take every chance to meet people that you probably could work with. But of course, I agree also to the narratives. You need to be honest always, but for example, this intellectual blah, 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 where you sometimes, sorry for this, but sometimes you just smell that people come from university quite fresh and they just keep on talking and they don't think about who they address. So just calm a bit down, talk like you are, and people will realize that you are there as a person and not as a person with a large competence to convince or to sell, maybe. Yeah. Okay, this was just a quick quick response.
Thank you, Jenny. So Stefan, what about your view on how to keep those diverse partnerships beyond having the quality content which you mentioned earlier?
I would say the field of art, unlike other branches of human activity, has the power to transcend boundaries and beliefs and the years, and to foster empathy and understanding between quarrels and different age groups. And that approach to the social agreement, implementing the project that include many young creatives and that are primarily non-established artists or everything, and who do not have the opportunity to participate in a cultural change of their institutions, settlement cities. It's often said that young people are the future, and this cannot be achieved without making real efforts to involve these same young people in political and cultural processes. I think once you include a diverse group of young people, other age groups start to follow because they recognize something fresh, something new, something that reminds them of that social change is still possible.
Thank you very much. I think you're making a very strong statement. We have a saying in Greek, which is, I don't want anything to be done for me without me. And it reminds me exactly of that participatory approach and of the enlightenment almost that younger professionals and people bring. And thanks for sharing that. And so this last question also for you, Periklis, how can you do different narratives maybe to keep a diverse partnership alive?
Of course, as I showed you, we have made different clusters for each category, let's say, of partnerships. To all of those, we were talking in a different way, let's say. Each cluster different audience. So it is of course a challenge to make an interconnection between two different clusters and talk even though the same language, because it's totally different when you talk to a private company and totally different when you talk to an actor of the civil society. But the challenge is to find a new way of speaking about your project in order to make the interconnection. So it's not easy every time, but you have to be creative, you have to be innovative, and you have, as soon as I heard from the conversation, you have to spot what they have for real in common. So the common element is the element that will help you to structure a different language, a different speech, a different rhetoric, in order to make the interconnection.
Thank you so much, Periklis. It is about the rhetoric, and it's a very interesting position, as you put it. So I would like to thank you all once more for this very interesting conversation and for joining us in this last talk. It was really interesting to hear from you how you develop and how you maintain the partnerships. Thank you very much. Thank you also to our production team behind this online event. And of course, dear viewers, thank you for being with us today. As today it is our last talk, I would like to inform you that you can watch all of the 9 sessions of the Unlearning talks that you might have missed on the startgreece.net website. Join us on social media for more Unlearning stories. Thank you.